welcome to the TENteam podcast. I am Lucy, your host, and it's so awesome that you're here. We really appreciate you. And today we are joined by some amazing ladies. We've got Melanie Griffiths, Heather Griffiths, and Carol Sharman, who all came on a women's Albania trip this year in April. In fact, Melanie was the one heading it up. And this episode is just an opportunity basically to hear about their experiences, including my own, and our experiences in Albania and on the TENteam trip. So we hope you find it really encouraging. Bless you. Well, welcome guys, welcome to the TED podcast. We're so excited to have you with us. So today we're going to be talking about our Albania trip that we did. So TENteam's trip to Albania at the beginning of the year in April. And yeah, we just want to give you guys a big welcome. Thank you for joining us just to share your stories and experiences. So so just be great for the folks who are listening just to get to know each and every one of you. Melanie, do you want to go first to sharing a bit about yourself, who you are?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Lucy. I'm Melanie and I work for Transform Europe Network as Supporters and Churches Officer. And I was the person who organised and led the team trip that we're hearing about today to Albania.
Woohoo! Thank you, Melanie. Heather?
Oh, hi, I'm Heather. I'm actually Melanie's sister. And I joined the trip because I wanted to find out more about the work she does. I'm actually in a church in Birmingham. I've been there for many years and I see that as a mission field, but I wanted to go to Albania to see some of what the work that Mel does, but also I've never been to Albania before and it was a really interesting experience.
Oh, that's really cool. How are you, Carol?
Hello, I'm Carol and I live near Plymouth. I'm in the Methodist Church there, have been for about 30 years, and a supporter of TEN for a long time, so mostly in the area of the Harvest for the Hungry. And I just wanted to go, really, basically. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. It's been really sweet to get to know you guys, because I also came on the trip with you guys, and it was really sweet just having the opportunity to get to know you and just like hearing your stories of how you like came on the trip and things. So so for those people who don't kind of know about the trip and what we did, is anyone up for just sharing about what we got up to in Albania?
Don't mind sharing a bit. The project we visited was a church planting, really, in a rural part of Albania, in a lot of small villages, remote villages, and they did this partly by sharing a sort of food project where they took food to the villages, and then also running Bible studies and church services. And the purpose of our trip was actually to support some of the women who find themselves involved in teaching and Bible study and things in their churches.
Yeah, it's really cool. Does anyone else anything to share as well about different things that we did that are a particular highlight for you?
There was a highlight every day, at least one, I think. So many highlights and memories I keep going back to. But the women's work on that first day was a very special day, wasn't it? Supporting them and praying with a lot of them and realising what hard lives some of them have and what they're up against. And I know when we went down into the village, that feeling of oppression, because it's largely Islamic, isn't it? Yeah. And there was a real feeling of darkness and oppression, I think, among the people. Their faces were not bright and alive, most of them. So that was a big thing for me, but also the children's work. Loved what we did with the children. And I don't know if it's the right place to share it, but have you seen these bags that you keep turning them out and they're different colour and a different pattern? No, I only saw it last week demonstrated, so I've ordered one to take to Albania next year. It's the creation, and it's only a bag, I don't know, about yay big.
Yeah.
And to start with, it's just black because it was void, and then you pull it inside out sort of thing, and it changes into all the different days of creation. Everybody,
amazing.
I'm fascinating when it comes to see how it's been made. But yeah, I thought they'll love that out there, and Emma, I think, will love it. So,
that's really nice. Yeah, I just wanted to add that all the trips that we do are a response to something that our partners, who are the Christians living in Christian church leaders living in the Balkans, have asked for. So therefore, they asked us, one of them in Albania asked us if we would go and lead a conference, a women's day. Essentially, that was the first thing we were asked to do, so that the women could come and get some refreshment and Bible teaching and things like that. And then it was just an extra bonus, really, to be going into the villages and working, with some of the widows and some of the children and some of the women who were doing discipleship and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just really lovely, really great.
Well, thank you guys for sharing. I was going to say, we've mentioned about you when you were chatting, Carol, about the kids' work, and you got to do like crafts. I can't remember what was the name of like the book that you took the kids through as well.
Open the book.
Open book, yeah, which had like a fun song as well.
Work it out. The trouble is, it's been taken over. It was just Open the Book and the stories, but it's been taken over by the Bible Society. Emma's face was a joy when she saw that book. It was just, that's why I left my copy. And it just stirred her, I think. We acted out one of the stories, didn't we? And
yeah, just for those listener, Emma is one of the ladies at the church that we were with, who heads up with the kids ministry, doesn't she? So yeah, I think a really sweet lady.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yeah. I suppose, does any of you have other particular highlights or like favorite stories or like reflections that you have about the trip as well? You might bounce off one another. If not, if you need thinking time, I can go. So.
Well, I would add, just following on from what Carol was just saying, how God obviously seemed to have equipped everybody. Nobody felt very equipped, but it was very apparent when everyone got there how God just had put particular things on their hearts that they could use, or given Carol the ideas for the crafts, and how they were just the right thing in the right situation. Like particularly, actually, I'm probably going to steal your thunder here, Carol, but
that's right.
When Grace, who was another person on the trip, was talking about casting the nets and catching the fish, the Bible story about that. I don't think Carol and Grace had conferred about what we were going to be doing. And apparently, Carol whipped out her paper plates and created loads of fish crafts instantly as an illustration, which I just thought was absolutely amazing.
Yes, so did I. Oh, praise you, Lord.
And the other thing for me was, Arian had asked us to come up with a Bible, to ask God if he had a Bible passage or a word for the service on Sunday. And I'm not generally given to coming up with things like that, sort of supernatural words, but I prayed about it, and I had the passage about the woman who touched the hem of Jesus's garment and was healed from having been poorly for 12 years. And I just shared that, and he said, I was wondering about preaching on that passage this morning. And so he did. So, I was very encouraged by that. So I just felt each person was able to share something that they'd, something of themselves, or something they'd brought with them, or something that God had given them for the moment. It was just really encouraging.
Yeah. I love that. We were all blessed when we split into groups, and it was Heather and Grace. Oh,
Christine.
No, not Christine.
Hazel.
Name's gone out of my head. Hazel. We were with the old ladies. Do you remember, Heather? About 12 to 15 of them, I can't remember. And for a start, it was lovely because we were high up in the mountains, weren't we? And when they saw us, they came in, we were there before them, and they were just so thrilled to see us. even though they couldn't understand most of what we said. But Julie helped with the translation and everything. And normally we'd have only sort of shared maybe one or two of us. But each one of us shared something which just seemed to really minister to them, didn't it, Heather? And that was a very special time when we prayed with them.
It made me realise just how remote some of these places are, and there was Julie and was Julie the wife?
She was the young wife with the baby.
And her husband, she was very heavily pregnant.
Yeah,
wasn't she? And it must be a very hard, quite an isolated life for them, really, having to lead that church and do everything. So it was a privilege, really, to go along and support them.
Yes. Yeah. I've thought of her ever since, really, because she was about 8 months, wasn't she? Or 8 or
9. She's had the baby.
Pardon?
She had the baby the following week.
Week. I know it was very, very close, but she'd got to go, 2.5-hour journey through the mountains to get to the hospital, hadn't she? And I've often thought of her and thought, oh golly, and we complain if we, slightest thing, really. But yeah, lovely lady she was. Did all the translation, and she was doing the kids' work. And
yeah. I know you've got something to share, Lucy, haven't you?
You've got time, but I think that's just encouraging hearing, because I love how the Lord kind of, I think when all the things that you've been speaking about, but I think you're talking about the different scriptures or different things to share that came in your heart that kind of come aligned. I love kind of when I just love it when the Lord does that, or just when it's just an encouragement. I suppose it is it gives us so much joy as well when you you're going to meet those ladies, and just the relationships that you build that really just actually have lots of sweet moments and joy and stuff. So it's just really encouraging to hear. I think because you guys were together when we split into groups and went to the different villages, and obviously Mel, we were together. And I think, like I said, I think my favourite story is the time where we were on our way to Lower Proptish.
Yeah.
Upper and lower, I think.
Yeah.
And to women's Bible study, and then just how we got broke down on the way,
wasn't it?
In the countryside.
Yeah.
So with the pastor and his wife, and then we also with other Albanian ladies as well, and then just getting out, and then just really felt quite a lot of peace about it. And I was just kind of I just think about those stories where the Lord sends someone who can help. And then we prayed, and then also the Albanian ladies prayed, and then it was just kind of wow, Lord, you're super speedy, because that was 10, I feel like it was 10-15 minutes, and then someone in the little van as well, came and just pulled up in front of us and opened his doors, and then just had all this stuff, and was a mechanic that helps people. And then was then just hey, and then just changed our tire, because it was the tire that went flat. And then I asked the pastor if we could pray for this guy and if he could translate, and then it was really cool. So I got to pray for him, but then I think it really encouraged the ladies that were with us, because then they also shared about it in the women's Bible studies that we went to.
Yeah. But, that was really nice. The pastor, was it Ilya? He shared it in the down in Lower Proptish with the men's group too, as a sort of testimony to what had happened, which was really nice.
Yeah, I think it's just the simple things, because I think even just, I think they had some youth-aged ones as well that were doing worship, and they were trying to train them up to do worship, to lead it themselves, and they're absolutely loving it. But I can play a bit of guitar, and had guitar tune on my app, but I realised the guitar was out of tune. So I was able to tune the guitar for them and stuff. And they were oh, I can hear the difference. Obviously can't speak Albanian, but they just see the little boy was just really happy because of the way it sounded. So I was just oh great, just in a small way, just feel
yeah. It is sometimes smaller things like that are real highlights, something. I mean, I quite often think of on the Sunday afternoon when we had some time off and we went down by the lake and went into that cafe for drinks, which were very, very limited. And some of us ended up having a hot chocolate because it was the only thing that was not caffeinated. And it was more like liquid blancmange, wasn't it? Do you remember? It was thick and gloopy. Oh dear. It gave us a laugh.
I was thinking for you, Heather, I think I'm trying to remember, I think there was like a word as well that you felt encouraged to share and that you got, I don't know if you remember, but
I can't remember.
I think at the women's conference, I think that was something that you felt, and that you went and you stepped out and did it and you felt
Right, yes, I think I did. I can't remember what the exact one was, but it was just encouraging because I think we all felt a bit nervous and unsure, really. And just to find that, when you make yourself available to God, he uses us. And I think we all experienced that over the few days. That was a real encouragement. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the particular word was, but yes, just to feel that. And I think most of us probably had kind of prayed about it before we went, and maybe had a few things that we thought might be right, and but we didn't know for certain. And then when we got the opportunity to share them, and they just seemed to be right for the moment, I think. Yeah. And the other thing that blessed me was when we were invited to pray after the service on the Saturday morning, when we went to some of the village services on the Saturday, and at the end of the service we were invited to to offer prayer ministry to people, and that was very encouraging.
That was
Ardit and Rankin Church. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Seeing how hungry for God's word the women were, and that everything that was shared with them really blessed them, because they were just so eager. Because we take it for granted, don't we? We come from a country where in a way churches of whatever denomination are to a penny, and we can access God's word whenever we want to, really, online or whatever. But and people perhaps don't always seem to have that sort of hunger for wanting to know about God, and to go out there and find that people were really engaged with every word, actually.
Actually, what really struck me about the whole climate in Albania was, which obviously I knew about it, but I hadn't really it hadn't become that sort of much of a live issue for me until I was there, was the fact that it's such a new church, so recently. The church was opened, people could actually, since after communism dissipated, and people could exercise religion again. And so it felt like the early church almost, people coming to faith, being discipled, baptized, discipled, and then serving God, out doing ministry themselves. And it was so refreshing, because like Heather said, in our country, you feel like it's a long process for anybody to do anything. Well, I mean, you do, people do come to the Lord and get stuck in, but there was just that encouragement for everybody to do that, to respond to the gospel, to be baptized, and then to serve other people and serve God and share the gospel themselves. And I just thought it was brilliant.
I often think of, we have such a plethora of books and leaflets, and there's just so much, isn't there? I know it's sometimes hard to access and you have to go online because there aren't that many bookshops now, Christian bookshops. But, in other countries, they just haven't got that. They don't have all these wonderful testimony books and things in their language. And apart from praying, I don't think there's anything we little ones can do about that. But it just, it must be hard. And,
we don't always appreciate just what we've got, do we?
No, we don't. and the heritage we've got of it here. Although, I mean, a lot of us come from non-Christian backgrounds, but a lot of people have had a history of family going through generations, haven't they? Which is wonderful. But several of them over there said, we're just first and second generation Christians here. That's all. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think what Carol, or what you're saying reminded me of is, the history of nations as well, and making you think as well, maybe of the church history, or kind of like the background of nations and how it can, although in terms of people's like backgrounds and like hearing or being more familiar with different stories, perhaps because of like UK being, I suppose the history of Christianity in the cat,
focusing on the cat.
Just seeing the cat now, it's very cute.
Yeah.
So it makes a difference.
I was sad when I got back, I went down to my daughter's because she lives in Kent, so went down there, and her husband's quite anti. So it's sort of gone on to the children as well. And he and my granddaughter said, "What do you want to go to Albania for? There's more of them over here than there are there." The real put down sort of type thing. And I thought, it's just so sad. And there's a car wash very close to them, which I've only ever used them once, and that was just before we went away, I think. And I could hear that it was a foreign accent, the chap who was cleaning my car. So I just sort of asked him, just in a friendly way, "Or where are you from?" And he said Albania. But I'm not a criminal, and that just made me feel sad. I mean, that he should feel he had to add that on. Yeah. So if I go again, I can say "God bless you" in Albanian.
I don't think I can remember it. I'd have to have a recap before we go.
I was determined that this year I would actually learn a bit of Albanian for it. I've just been so busy. I haven't got, I've got only the words we learned when we were out there, really. But maybe next year I'll have time to do a bit.
Yeah. As you guys, because it was my first time in Albania, and for you guys, I think it was first time too. I suppose
mine as well.
Oh, like everyone's first time in Albania. So I suppose it's kind of what, like, was it different than what you expected in different ways, or?
I hadn't got a clue what to expect, to be honest.
I don't think I really knew what to expect. I mean, I thought the countryside was beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought it was, really lovely, the mountains. I mean, in a way, it was more beautiful than I'd imagined it to be.
Too. Yeah.
But I also hadn't really realised that there was quite an Islamic background either. So that sort of was something that was a surprise to me slightly. Podgorica had that feel about it, and that was quite an insight to me as well. So there was.
Sorry, carry on. I was saying, surely they must only be first and second generation.
I think so.
Yeah.
Although I don't know whether there was more of a because of the Ottoman Empire. There was more of an influence
maybe it was
before
just
communism. I'm not sure.
Although they was kind of saying that after communism, people sort of picked up where they'd left off, didn't they? That if you'd come from an Islamic family, you tended to carry that on, go back to that. If you come from a Catholic or Christian family, you'd probably pick that up again. But certainly the area where we were seemed to be very strongly Islamic, didn't it? Whereas the south, maybe the south of Albania, which has had more of a tourist influence, was there seemed to be more thriving churches and things over in the south. But that's possibly because they've had a broader influence of people coming in, maybe. I don't know. But I thought it was very interesting to discover the history of Albania. Because I had no idea at all, really. I suppose in the 80s I was conscious that it was communist at that time, and I remember going to Corfu and looking across to Albania, and we were praying for Albania. But I hadn't known any of the history prior to that, and I hadn't actually known really what had happened afterwards. And when you think of, you know, the reputation Albania and Romania and places have for things like human trafficking, you can see how it's happened, because it's sort of come in to fill a vacuum which has been left when communism has collapsed, and people are trying to you know, develop their own wealth and make a living for themselves, and if there isn't the actual infrastructure for it, then it sort of leaves a vacuum for something else, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I think I agree with you guys as well, saying about like the beauty of the nation as well, of the mountains and the place. Cause I didn't.
And the lake.
Just, yeah, and the lake is so beautiful. And yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was I suppose it's probably quite a funny thing. I think when we got on the plane, I don't think I've been on the plane before with so many men.
On the way out there, yes.
Quite alarming,
Actually, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, when
You feel very odd.
lose or something, and you turned round, and you thought, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah, I mean, it did feel quite odd. I suppose the women aren't travelling really so much, are they? All the guys have been in Britain and other countries and stuff. And no, that was strange.
But I think, like
I'd
you said,
forgotten all about that until you said it, and I got an immediate flashback, and I could just see it. Yeah.
No, I think because obviously with working with TEN, having a bit more of understanding context, but then being in the actual country, being like, oh, this makes sense because I see it now, so it makes sense in terms of, and it also kind of, you were talking about, Heather, with like the infrastructure, because obviously country actually population wise isn't that big. Is it kind of like 3 million or something like that? I don't know. It's quite a small population.
Less than 3 million. Yeah. Now.
So you kind of, and then when you're there, you can see like houses are very like, and you know, towns are very spread. Do you know what I mean? And quite small. So you can kind of then and see what like the opportunities are. You can see why there's probably a bit more of like the movement and stuff. I suppose it's like really helpful just to get a bit more of a understanding of what things are like as well.
Because I'm really grateful to Elsie, because he took us to so many places, didn't he?
Yeah.
We go in, you know, a little bit of a detour so that we could see something or whatever. He was lovely, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So his next question as well, do you feel, was there anything that you felt like God was speaking to you either during or before or even after the trip that you felt was significant for you? Or you might have shared it in your highlight, might have been a combination. So
yeah, I think it was that assurance of his presence, the assurance that he would go with us, and that, you know, I was a bit worried about, you know, most of us hadn't necessarily, well, we certainly didn't know each other that well, apart from Heather and I, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, I was a bit concerned about how everybody would get on and everything. And it was just such a harmonious trip on the whole, you know, just it felt like things just went smoothly. And, you know, obviously you have your odd moments, but actually overall, I felt like the team really worked well together, and it was just a pleasure, really. And it gave me confidence because it's only the second trip I'd led. And so, you know, that in itself was, you know, that assurance, you know, that God sort of shows us we can do more than we imagined we could do.
Yeah.
Really sweet.
And I was really nervous having to share a room with somebody I'd only just met, you know. And we just got on so wonderfully. It was lovely sharing with Hazel. Comparing all our complaints and bad backs, we've both got something else, or this operation or that operation. But I heard somebody in the year, I can't remember what the story was, but it was a friend and her mum meeting with another friend and her mum, and the young ones just left the older ones go and have your organ recital. Yeah.
Good one.
Yes, I thought it was a good one. Yes, we had a lovely time together.
Yeah, we did. I suppose if anyone doesn't have any more thoughts on that, I suppose what would you say in terms of, do you feel like the trip had an impact when you came like home? Did it encourage you in particular ways, or like highlight different areas that you wanted to press into more, or what was that, or how's it impacted you now, I suppose?
I think it just kind of rekindled that vision for mission, because it was just so sort of lovely to see their commitment and enthusiasm, and you know how they were really dedicated to God's work. Yeah, I think just that inspiration to think, and also what I said earlier about, you know, people being hungry for God. I think, you know, you don't, sometimes it seems very hard work in this country. I mean, theirs is hard work. I mean, clearly it's hard work because, you know, they're very small churches and they're very thinly spread. But it just feels how worthwhile what they're doing is really, and I think that was an inspiration to remember to maintain that vision for a wider, you know, the wider world and what's going on outside and what God is doing in other countries.
That's really cool. Yeah,
it stirred up more interest in our church as well, because, you know, as I've said, we really only get involved with Harvest, because, you know, in the church you've got so many other things as well, and but they're very, very good with Harvest. And I was able to speak to 2 different groups here that absolutely loved it, and it stirred up more interest with that. Yeah, so some of them sort of put a little bit aside in their groups and things like that, and then I think they send it off to themselves, I think. Now I'm not sure.
You might have some recruits, Carol.
I don't think so. The ones I've spoken, of course, probably all think they're too old, I don't know, but I think, you know, it's one of those churches where most people are fairly busy, or, you know, got a lot of commitments, and I don't think there is. If we had more young people.
Yeah,
I was hoping we might be able to get some of our young people interested. I was hoping we might be able to, you know, encourage 1 or 2 to maybe come to Albania or to go on the Croatian
trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. When I think back to when I was a young Christian, I was already married, but I was a young Christian, and in that church, you know, we had the map up. We got people here and we got people there, and you know, the mission was part of the church. But it's just not talked about now.
Not quite so much.
The opportunities are different, though, aren't they? Possibly,
well,
because I mean, then a lot of people, you know, would you know, go on the mission field, but these days you have to have a particular role, really, don't you? To you can't just. It's not so easy just to go and do church planting, or I don't know. But
there's also a move towards supporting local Christians in their own countries. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a lot to do here, isn't there?
But I think what it also has really encourages. It really encouraged me. Every time I go on a trip with TEN, which I haven't been on loads, but it encourages me about what I could be doing in my own community, because I see what they're doing there, and I think, well, actually I'd love to be sharing more of the gospel in my local community, or you know, we could be responding more in practical ways, or whatever it is I've seen there. I find I pick up lessons for my own home situation as well, so it's very much a 2-way inspiration, I think.
Yeah,
because I feel like just like to weave the thread what you're saying in a way that also encourages people to like think about like going on a short-term trip, is that it does kind of, you're saying that with Heather, you're saying kind of encouraging restoring your heart afresh for mission, and also with you, Mel, like talking about how like impact like in your like local context when you come home, because I do think it kind of it's like that little fire spark, isn't it? Like it encourages you. It's like there's how, you know, testimony and experience just really spurs you on, and I suppose that's what the real blessing of going on short-term trips is, that it does bring that experience, does really impact, like when you go home, and like stir you fresh and give that like this is what the Lord's done, and like this is what now he can do in my own context as well. And also encouraging Carol to hear about you sharing your story with your church family and stuff, which is really cool as well. So
you did brilliantly with that, Carol. Thank you.
Yeah, we printed out some of the photos, and I had on one of them I just had A4 pictures, but then they got put on the overhead for the bigger meeting, so that was nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose I'm probably like last question, unless also feel free to probably share any last kind of thoughts that you want to, if you've got anything burning. But I suppose like what would you encourage someone who might be thinking about coming along next year? And because basically folks will be running going to Albania again in 2024. Mel can probably share a little bit more about that as well. But for those who might be thinking of coming on a short-term trip or a TENteam trip, what would you encourage? Would you encourage them to come on?
Go. I'd just say go. I think you gain more than you give, really. In lots of those situations, it's just such a joy to share the Lord with them, isn't it? And see their reactions, and
it's just really inspiring, isn't it?
Yes.
And just to see their commitment and their enthusiasm and what they're seeking to do. Yeah, I think it's a challenge to us all, really.
And those
it's a privilege, isn't it, to see what God's doing in another country.
Yeah. Privilege.
Yeah.
And those lovely ladies who cooked for us, and
amazing servant-heartedness.
Yes,
just willingness. People's hospitality as well as everything else, wasn't it? You know. And it was lovely.
People's willingness to give and to serve. And like, you know, Elsie, who did the driving, he just wanted to give back, didn't he? He just wanted to serve.
I mean, even on the Sunday afternoon, he offered to take us out, didn't he? And we all said, no, you have your time off.
Yeah.
To the beach. But wasn't it fun when you got the fish? When we stopped to get the fish.
We tell the story for those listening. Well, you can tell the story about the fish.
Oh yeah, we pulled up at this little place run by some of the relatives of Elsie, our driver, and there was these fish tanks with all these trout swimming around, and Elsie came back with several for our supper.
I mean, they were a special trout, weren't they?
Pick one, weren't we? I can't remember.
Somebody went in and helped choose.
Yeah.
But they were a special trout from the lake, weren't they?
Yeah,
that's to be sent over to the Queen. Apparently, she used to.
It was
So yeah.
They were. But normally trout is a river fish, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those were deep in the lake. See, I learned something else.
You'll get nice food. That's what I'm loving. I think that I was thinking of, because like I feel those ladies who like hosted us at the church and stuff like that. I was like, oh my word. I think when I came back, I was like, the Albanians are like so amazing and really hospitable. I think that was my first outreach where I got like they also cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner and stuff, and they were apps. I was just like, wow, these guys are just.
The food was amazing. I thought the food was brilliant.
Yes, it was beautiful.
But there is something rather lovely about staying by a lake where they have fresh fish that are caught for your supper. You know, there's also a biblical kind of feeling about that. It was just really lovely to that was a highlight, having the trout.
Yes.
Chosen, you know, just picked fresh.
What was left they put into
straight
soup.
away.
Yeah. What was left they put into a soup the next day, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and nothing was wasted, was it?
No.
Well, thank you guys for coming and joining the podcast. It's been really great. It's been a really sweet conversation just hearing about. Thank you for tuning in to the TEN podcast. We'll be running the Albania trip in May 2024. Woo! So if you really want to join and if you're interested in applying or just would like to find out more, you can get in contact with us at TENteams@ten-uk.org. The email will be in the description. Or you can also, if you just want to find out a little bit more information about the trip, you can visit our website at www.ten-uk.org, and don't forget to subscribe for more episodes. See you next time.